Piers Plowman by William Langland. Passus VIII. Thus I robed in russet, I roamed about a whole summer season searching for do well. And I asked very frequently of folk that I met if anyone knew where do well made his home. And many a man I asked what man he might be. There was never anyone as I went that was able to tell me where that fellow could be found, not the first inkling, till it befell on a Friday I fell in with two friars, masters of the Minorites, men of great intelligence. I hailed them as handsomely as I had been taught, and prayed them, por charity, before they parted from me, if they knew any neighborhood, near or far, where do well dwells, do please tell me, for you walk most widely of worldly men, and know countries and courts and many kinds of places, both princes' palaces and poor men's cottages, and do well and do evil where they both dwell.
Marry, said the masters, he dwells among us, and always has, as I hope, and always will hereafter.
Contra, I said like a clerk, and commenced to argue. 7 times a day falleth the just man. 7 times, says the book, sins the righteous. And if someone sins, I say, it seems certain to me that do well and do evil cannot dwell together. Ergo, he is not always at home among you friars. He's occupied at times elsewhere, educating the people.
I shall show you, my son, said the friar then, how the steadiest man sins 7 times a day. By an example, said the friar, I shall show you clearly. Let a man be brought in a boat amid a broad expanse of water. The wind and the water and the wobbling of the boat will make the man many a time fall and stand. For though he stands ever so stiffly, he stumbles from the motion, and yet he is safe and sound. And so it behooves him be, for if he doesn't arise right away and reach for the helm, the wind and the water will overwhelm the boat. Then the man's life would be lost through his laziness alone. Just so it fares, said the friar, with folk here on earth. The water that wanes and waxes is likened to the world. The goods of this ground are like the great waves, for, like water in the wind, they welter about. The boat is likened to the body that is brittle by nature, so that through the fiend and the flesh and the false world the steadfast man sins 7 times a day. But he does not do deadly sin, for do well helps him. That is charity the champion, chief help against sin, for he strengthens you to stand and steers your soul, so that though your body turns like a boat in the water, your soul is always safe, unless you yourself will follow your flesh's will, and the fiend's as well, and do deadly sin, and drown yourself. God will gladly suffer your sloth if you yourself wish it, for he gave you a New Year's gift, with which to guide yourself, wit, and free will, to every white a portion, to flying fowls, to fishes, and to beasts, but man has most of it, and is most to blame, unless he works well with it, as do well teaches. I have no natural knowledge, said I, to understand your words. But if I may live and go on looking, I shall learn better. I commend you to Christ, said he, who was crucified on cross. And I said, the same save you from misfortune, and give you grace on this ground to become good men. Thus I fared far and wide, trying to find do well. And as I went by a wood, walking alone, a merry melody of birds made me abide, and on a lea under a linden I lay down a while, to learn the lays of the lovely fowls made. Mirth of their mouths made me go to sleep. The most marvelous dream came to me then, and ever any hero had in danger, I think. A large man who looked to me much like myself came and called me by my Christian name. Who are you, I asked then, who know my name? That you know well enough, he said, and no one better. Do I know who you are? I asked. Thought, said he then. I've pursued you 7 years. Haven't you seen me before? Are you Thought? Said I then. I think you could tell me where Do Well dwells and direct me to him. Do well, said he, and do better, and do best the third, are 3 fair virtues, and are not far to find. Whoever is meek of his mouth, mild of his speech, true of his tongue and of his 2 hands, and through his labor or his land earns his livelihood, trustworthy of his tail end, takes only what is his, and is not drunken or disdainful, do well is with him. Do better does the same. But he does much more. He's lowly as a lamb, lovely of speech. While he has anything of his own, he helps where there's need. The bags and the strong boxes, he's broken them all, that the Earl Avarice had, or his heirs, and with Mammon's money he has made himself friends, and has taken residence in religious houses, and has rendered the Bible, and preaches to the people St. Paul's words. Ye suffer fools gladly, seeing ye yourselves are wise. You wise ones, allow the unwise to live with you, and with glad will do them good, for so God commands. Do best is above both, and bears a bishop's crozier, that has a hook at one end to hold men in good lives. A spike is on that staff to shove down the wicked, that lie in wait, devising villainy, with which to vex do well. And as do well and do better decided between them, they have crowned one to be king, and keep watch over them all. That if do well and do better did anything against do best, and were disobedient to his bidding, and bold to do evil, then the king should come and cast them in prison, put them there in penance without pity or grace, unless do best recommends mercy.
to remain there forever. Thus, do well and do better and do best the third, crowned one to be king. Their counsel would guide him, and he should rule the realm by direction of them all, and not in any other way but as those three agreed. I thanked Thought, then, as he thus taught me. But still I've no savor in your sayings, so help me God. More natural knowledge I need to learn. How do well, do better, and do best do among the people. Unless wit can tell you this, said Thought, where those three live. Otherwise no one knows that is now alive. Thought and I, thus 3 days we walked, debating about do well day after day. But before we were aware, we met with Wit. He was long and lean, like no one else. There was no pride in his apparel, nor poorness either. Of a soft speech and sober appearance. I dared mention no matter that would make him wrangle. But as I bade Thought then to be an intermediary between us, and to put forth some proposition that would prove his wits, how do well differed from do better and do best from them both, then at that time Thought said these words: Where do well and do better and do best live in the country, here is Will who'd wish to learn if Wit knew how to teach him. And whether he is man or no man, this man would discover, and work as they three would wish. This is his inclination. End of Piers Plowman, Passus VIII.